trade in positive territory on optimism about fiscal cliff negotiations on Capitol Hill. Now you're up to date from the Business News Network. Our finance minister has been huddled in Quebec. Our next guest wants to hear from them about the fiscal cliff and also from Sun Life about their plans now that they've sold off their U.S. annuities business. For the big picture, Diana Avigdor joins us, VP and Portfolio Manager and Head of Trading at Barometer Capital. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We seem to have a disconnect between Bay and Wall Streets here. The Americans don't seem to be as pessimistic about the fiscal cliff as we are.
I know. There's been some good news earlier this morning about a closer meeting of the minds, shall we say, giving us a little optimism that things will be okay.
And with that, though, are you making any moves based upon that, or do you just have to sit on the sidelines and wait for it to settle out?
I don't think you can play, I don't think you can trade the headlines. I don't think you can forward guess what every single chess move is going to be, because it is a negotiation into a deadline and everybody wants to get the best case scenario for what they want to achieve. But I think that overall you have to sort of think what is the worst case scenario that you think will play out. And I'm not sure that the worst case scenario will play out. I think that there is optimism that there's going to be a resolution before year end. And even if perhaps not quite a year end, while some things are written into law and will hit in January, there is a possibility for further negotiation into the new year and retroactive. So it's not quite as worrisome as it could be.
Meantime, we do have the finance ministers across the country meeting today in Quebec at Meech Lake. And I know that the fiscal cliff was one of the topics of discussion. I also know that our finance minister, federal finance minister, has already told us, hey, if they go over the cliff, so do we.
Right. I was very heartened, though. I listened to the last 10 minutes of the conversation here at the studios while I was waiting. And I was heartened to hear Minister Flaherty say that they do have some measures in place. Of course, he did not detail what measures in place if the worst case scenario plays out. But I'm happy to hear that there is some and would love to hear about them, or actually would love not to hear about them, because I would love not to get there.
But it just sort of seems like outside of some magical levers that the finance department says they've got to pull, we really don't have any full insight into what it is that they could possibly do. What do you think? We do not have a full insight into what they could possibly do. We do know that Canada is the only one that has not done any quantitative easing. I'm not an economist by trade, but I do know that rates are probably here to stay low for a longer period of time. And in terms of the CPP, I'm happy to hear that that is next year's or next summer's issue, because certainly the small business owner cannot afford anymore. In the meantime, talking about a larger business owner, Sun Life Financial, we're seeing a near 4% decline in the stock, unloading that annuities business. I have been told on Market Call earlier today that actually this is a really good thing, because it removes some of the uncertainty and the volatility associated with SLF. Do you agree?
You know, Sun Life is already a fairly unlevered, stable insurance company. If you look at the chart relative to its Canadian and U.S. peers, you see a company that has really outperformed its own peers. Selling this business keeps them even more conservative. And the reason the stock is down is A, because of course it was a 52-week high before, and B, investors want to hear from the company why a business unit with such a high ROE that's going to take 22 cents away from earnings, where is that money going to be deployed going forward?
First Quantum, meantime, the bid for Inmet, third time's a charm, do you think?
It's still hostile. I think FM is inviting Inmet management to come to the table to talk in order to figure out what the right price is. In the meantime, Inmet is trading above the bid price.
So between Sun Life and First Quantum, do you like either of those two stocks right now, or should we hit the buy buttons?
I think that I like it. I would wait for a little bit of more trading days to see further resolution, however.
In the meantime, as we see those gyrations, as we come full circle back to the fiscal cliff discussion here, do you have a lot of cash sitting on the sidelines waiting to deploy it? You know, they always say you buy the steak when it's on sale.
We run a very high yield mandate, and in that space there have been lots of bargains in the last couple of months. We're not high on cash. We always have some on hand in order to take advantage of dislocations in prices. The year end coming up, I don't think markets are going to be very different year end, with the exception, of course, if we get a very big and wonderful resolution.
Happy holidays, Diana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Diana Avigdor, VP and Portfolio Manager and Head of Trading at Barometer Capital.